Greetings once again, godlies. I am Thoth, God of knowledge. I am the sum of all information, infinite and extraversal intellect to the millionth power. I can see through past the fourth wall into your world, and therefore I serve you knowledge of Exitium variety. It has come to my understanding that there is no official word out on an explained video for the Khora God Builds trailer. Hopefully I will be able to rectify that error. Normally when we're speaking of Exitium lore, we are oftentimes pondering Egyptian mythos as well. One could assume that Khora's trailer is no different. On the contrary, the story unfolding in this video is all Norse related. Upon first viewing, we open with a dedication message. Beyond that we are greeted with clips of space followed by a view of Asgard. You are not made aware by this point that this is Asgard, but rest assured it is indeed the great city of the Aesir. Next you will see the lunar phase displayed as we would see it from Earth, and also from a bird's eye view glancing down at a globe-like world. For all intensive purposes we can deliberately call this Earth due to only one variable being changed. The globe-like world you see is projected from a hollow panel within the cockpit of the next frame. The globe itself is a compass of time ruling dominion over Midgard, which is essentially the Milky Way and the realm that houses it. Although the pyramid gives some indication that this too is Egyptian nature, it is merely an Easter egg cleverly hidden. The pyramid itself tells the audience a message. The lighthouse-like effect that peaks its top is a nod to the all-seeing eye of Amun-Ra. This frame can only be described as a simple compass with complex features. You will learn much more about it during the final act of this trailer. At 42 seconds into the trailer is where the actual story begins. Everything before this point was just prologue. While it may not be entirely obvious yet, this frame depicts a lone Aesir with his canine watching over Asgard's mountain top. In the grassy valley below there seems to be a crater to which a devil man crawls out of. This devil is none other than the demon god, Surtur. It is important to note the timeline in Exitium at this point. The land is ravaged by war, strife, and famine. Odin is dead, Loki is missing, and Baldur betrayed by Hod. Despite how weakened the kingdom of Asgard is, the Aesir are prepared for Surtur's prophesied return, as Thor mentions in the clips that follow. Thor is joined in conversation by his eldest son Magni and Thrud, who is represented by Khora. After all, this is primarily her trailer and also her origin. An additional important note is the difference between Exitium Bifrost and Norse Bifrost. In Norse, the Bifrost is simply a rainbow bridge, whereas with Exitium, the Bifrost is a shuttle with technology we will revisit later on in this video. After the dialogue is through, a scene of Asgard soldiers are shown storming the Jotun. The Jotun are simply pawns, or lesser demons under the command of Surtur. Under any other circumstance, the Aesir should be able to overthrow the Jotun. But because the kingdom is weakened due to prior events, even the greater deities are needed to fight. Hence why Thor, Thrud, and Magni dive into battle. Thor throws Mjolnir, which was poorly animated by Vance. Thrud catches Mjolnir, which has decent animation up until she begins to attack. That's when the animation goes back to tacky. Thor and Magni both pound the ground before Magni gets a small montage of his own. It's made evident with suggestive jump cuts that Magni is targeting Surtur outright. As stated before, Magni is the eldest and strongest of Thor's children. Ergo, he is very brash and overzealous. Nevertheless, Magni is able to deal a crushing surprise attack to Surtur. Any other demon would have been rendered unconscious immediately. This is no ordinary demon, however. This is Surtur. Surtur quickly shrugs off Magni's attack and responds with a cataclysmic jab. This attack is more than enough to fatally injure Magni, so Thor lunges in to knock his son out of the way, taking the blast head on. To symbolize that Thor's life is flashing before his eyes, the viewer will now be presented with custom animations hand-drawn by Vance. Despite the first animated image you see not being hand-drawn by Vance, it is implied that there is an ambulance pod rushing Thor and his wife Sif to the hospital. This is clearly where the custom artwork begins. This moment in time is illustrating the birth of Thrud and the death of Sif. For the last of the custom artwork, Thor visits Sif's grave and finds himself awoken on the battlefield with a gaping wound in his chest. Thrud and Magni both are now at Thor's side and seeking to abandon the defense of Asgard in favor of taking the Bifrost back in time to prevent this event from ever happening. As brother and sister carry their critically injured father to the Bifrost, Thor shoves the duo in and closes the door. Thor knows he won't live much longer and neither will Asgard. This much is hinted at the emotionally charged words he chooses to give his children. Thor does not intend to flee or go out without a fight. He is set to take as many down with him as possible. He mounts the Bifrost as it begins to ascend. Mustering all of his power as he leaps from the Bifrost, he obliterates a cluster of Jotun. Thor addresses Surtur, and once more Surtur leans back to deliver another devastating blow. This time Thor is prepared for the attack, blocks it and powers through. The uppercut he delivers is enough to send Surtur off of his feet. At the height of Thor's strike, he channels all of his spirit energy into his palms and plummets from the sky with kamikaze intent. When the collision ensues, Asgard is completely wiped out. The Bifrost narrowly escapes the blast into the void of space. Thrud reveals that she still has Mjolnir in her possession. But if you look closely to the background, the previously shown cockpit now contains the sphere-shaped globe we discussed earlier. Although this is the final frame, it's important to note what happens just before you see this image. The Bifrost is entering what appears to be a black hole. Needless to say, we can conclude that this hollow panel is indeed not a compass. But instead, it's a device capable of hand-selecting a moment in Midgard time to travel back to. The lasting concept you have to bear is a complex principle that time is relevant to gravity, and furthermore, the instance of cross-dimensional travel allowing those who have the proper technology to be able to hand-select a moment in time with precise measurements. This is just one form of time travel in Exitium lore. And it's the perfect setup for Magni and Thrud's involvement with the main trilogy of Exitium. The main goal of these intense story-driven trailers is to set up for upcoming Exitium exclusives. This video served as a demonstration of how 2D images could be animated in an elusive way to trick your mind into believing that it's actually 3D. Since it was just practice for Vance, you can imagine how other projects which completely rely on custom artwork and animation will look once an original web series is ready for launch. It is now an appropriate time to mention ARCs. The speed paint and proof of concept will be advertised and provided here in the description section. If you enjoyed the content for which you just viewed, please consider hitting the like button, comment, share, and subscribe. Until we meet again, Godlies, this has been Thoth, powering down.